But here you go, guys. It's time for some DeMusliM Delhi. I don't think I've actually seen him do this yet, which seems kind of, surprising. I mean, I would have thought he'd been experimenting with Delhi sooner. Although, in fairness, with a name like DeMusliM, surely you should be non-stop playing the Abbasid dynasty, right? That would be like, that would be role-playing specifically to your name. But he's going to be up against Hera, who's on the Mongols. Mongols that we've seen him thrive with, and we've seen him dive into despair with, especially against the Delhi player, 3DB the other day, completely ruining his time. But it's going to be Delhi on this pesky river map. This right here is an important one, guys. We've seen what 3DB can do on this map. We've seen what he can do specifically against Mongols. And we've seen the trap that Mongol players fall into, and Hera is falling into it right now. This is not what you want to do as the opening, folks. Mongols who build Uvus against Delhi on water hybrid maps do not have a fun time. And you're seeing exactly that occur here. He moves the Khan out, but it's going to be too late to stop the dock from being produced. And this is going to put Hera at a huge disadvantage. And you know what? So far, I've been presenting this, and people are like, oh, it's like not that Delhi are broken, it's that 3DB is amazing. Well, let's see how amazing DeMuslim's about to be. Because I've got a prediction about this one, and it's that Hera is not going to have a good time. Yes, I believe the comment I keep getting on my videos in response to Delhi 3DB is... just because John Wick can kill someone with a pencil doesn't mean a pencil's a good weapon. Stuff along those lines. But I'm like, no, Delhi opening is pretty busted on hybrid water maps right now. It's kind of their only big show right now. Like, you can still, skill on skill matchups, you can still win late game, right? But if you're talking early game ridiculous plays, like Delhi still has one after they lost the Sacred Site crap. And it is the fishing boat spam, right? You drop a dock straight away if you're starting wood. And I think... one of the civs that actually gets trapped the most by this is genuinely the Mongols. Mongols do this every time, and we see it fail. Now, I'm excited to see if Hera can actually make it work. I'm not holding my breath, though, because he's building spearmen to deal with fishing boats, folks. Now, that sounds like a great solution, doesn't it? Oh, yes, it's a stupid little fishing boat. That's not scary. Fishing boats shoot people, guys. The only thing they're fishing for are kills. With 7 damage per hit, and no way that the Spearman can reach him, I don't like this idea of Spearman spam very much, guys. In fact, you're going to very quickly run into problems with the crossings. You can already see that DeMusliM is moving down. He understands what's important in this matchup. He keeps a scout up here. He's walling here as well with the palisades. And he's moving another villager down here. This is so smartly played by DeMusliM. He's going to funnel all attention in the center of the map. The Mongols have no choice if they want to get aggressive to pass through here. And this is where the dock is. This is where the fishing boats are going to be, which means any attempt at amassing spearmen moving in is going to be an outright fat fail. And I'm starting to wonder if Hera's actually experienced this before. Because I'm not sure you build spearmen if you've been up against this in the past. Meanwhile, Scout's just gathering more of these. DeMusliM, one thing he does different to 3DB, by the way. So 3DB didn't tend to prioritize these palisades. He actually only gets 1 Scout compared to 3DB's 2. I especially like the idea of 2 Scouts on this map. I think it's incredible on this map. Because all of the sheep, well, not all of them, but most of the sheep are along this center river, right? So if you get 2 sheep, you run it down, and then you split them to go left and right here, up and down the shores of your opponent's side, and then you take all those sheep away. And that, especially for Mongols, is kind of painful in the early economy, right? And then maybe you force Mongols in a situation, especially in this situation, right? If you've done that to them, they don't get the sheep. They're not going stables. They're not going professional scouts. He's opened up with racks. He's kind of committed here. And after he experiences how frustrating of a strategy this is going to be, Hera just might need to be committed to an insane institute, because this will drive him crazy. Ooh. Okay, that's a juicy sneak in. They didn't complete the walls. Hera stopped him before he finished it, so he snuck in, but I don't know what you can strike at here. The wood line is exposed. DeMusliM needs to identify this and get enough for an outpost right now. I don't think you should be leaving yourself exposed like this. Okay, outpost down over here. Slow on the construct, though. Should be quick enough that the spearman can't do it. Yeah, he even moves the 5th one over. And he'll move the 1 weak villager away. Blocks with the scout. Willing to sacrifice the scout to save the Villi. Much more important there. And then should be quick garrison to snipe 1 or 2 of these spearmen out. Oh, big mistake made. I feel he was distracting his base, so he just lost a fishing boat. That should not have died. Hera just kind of out-microing him right now, right? Like, he's tracking everything happening across the map much better. Kind of worrying. DeMusliM shouldn't have lost a single fishing boat so far. Should be able to move over and punish a few of these lads, moving to the fishing boats up. Remember, his economy is already scaling better. In fact, you look at income per minute. Hera's ahead for the moment, but it's like the wood factor is kind of the difference, right? It's because that plus the fact he only just moved the gold line, now you'll see DeMusliM surpass his opponent. Because DeMusliM 24 compared to Hera only at 19. There you go. So he boxes in the Spearman. Needs to really get someone out to complete this. It's kind of risky, though. And look at this attempt. This might be perfectly placed as well. I think the fishing boat here should be able to strike at these villages. There it is. He needs to actually prioritize it, though. He needs to get more fishing boats here. Hera just trying to prevent the cheese, but here come the fishing boats. I don't know. Fishing doesn't seem appropriate. Sharking boats seems more appropriate because fishing boats, they just catch things in nets. These guys shoot crap at stuff, right? Like this seems like it's hunting something more predatorial in the waters. And it looks like it'll back up enough. So, nice play by Hera. Is this going to be the solution, though? Because although this will give you a foothold around here, how are you ever going to build docks, right? Which means if you can never build docks, you're behind on the economy. You can't match what the Delhi player's doing because, well, you've got one building to generate your resource generators. And then, meanwhile, in the Muslim's base, well, he's about to have 3 that are producing his resource generators, right? Because he's building a second dock. So, outpost gets completed. And they will garrison. And they'll slowly work on the dock. However, these spearmen need to be a little bit careful. They can still be sniped out. Not the end of the world right now. As you can see, he's building this new dock over here. Needs to be careful about losing villages to the Khan. He's in hardened status now, so can be a bit frustrating. And another outpost being dropped. So DeMusliM really kind of paranoid here. This has allowed his opponent to get on the wall. I think this is a mistake. I think DeMusliM should have ran by the dock, sniped out the spearman, and like kept 1 or 2 garrisoned here. Sacrifice part of your potential economy to keep your opponent off the water. Because this is where actually Hera can start to become a nuisance. Because now that he's about to tech up, he'll have access to the light junks. Meanwhile, DeMusliM only now teching up means he's going to be behind. And you can see it. It's been complete, right? He's been up at this point, and now he can just build the light junks. Really concerning. And also, the outpost doesn't go down. DeMusliM. So paranoid about losing 1 or 2 fishing boats. He could end up losing the game now. It's actually a really big deal that he's being pressured like this because while he had the initial fishing eco, Hera has shut him out now. Right, he gets rid of this dock. That's a costly 150 wood. These fishing boats are all he has on the water. He's only now beginning his construct up, but he's not having anyone work on the Dome of Faith because they're all being prioritized to move out to this outpost. And even if he rushes to complete this now, his economy is still going to be weaker and his military force is not going to be present. Because there's already light junks being built by Hera. And once you get 2 light junks, you should just plow through and take out the fishing vessels. And at that stage, DeMuslim's kind of done. I think he is done, actually. So well played by Hera in the opening. Honestly, it looked like DeMuslim had shut him out. Right? But that one moment with the outpost, the crawl back to the second outpost, the fact that DeMusliM then gets paranoid and doesn't go in to finish off the spearman and doesn't wrap around despite this dot being placed is exactly why Hera is now in full control of the game. And I'll remind you folks, this is a Mongol player in full control of the game, 8 minutes, and that is enough. That gets him to GG out. Fully understandable, though. Considering how this played out, I think the mistake that DeMusliM might look back at is that he wasn't willing to sacrifice some fishing boats to actually keep his opponent pinned in. I genuinely think that that was the big difference. The fact that Hera identified that and exploited that weak showing, right, that kind of moment of like hesitation out of DeMusliM is exactly why he's a high-level player, is exactly why he takes the win. Really, really well played. Really short game, but kind of shows you how you can counter the Delhi, right? It's not this infinitesimal, unlimited, unstoppable strategy. It is incredibly strong. But if you make a mistake at any stage of the Delhi play in that early phase of the game, you can easily just lose the entire game, as we saw there, right? Because you're playing heavily into those fishing timings, right? Which means usually what you're doing is you're heavy into the wood, and you're actually sacrificing a lot of gold, which is why his tech up is so late, because you're meant to be comfortable in that situation with the Delhi player. You're meant to actually have full control, and your opponent, because they're reacting to you, they're never teching up themselves. But the funny part is Hera not only managed to tech up himself, but correctly and appropriately reacted to his opponent. And this is the power of like teching up in regards to water that we talked about before on the channel. Actually, like when your opponent gets control on the water at Dark Age, if you can hit Feudal Age, you have a comeback. Same if your opponent has control of the water at Feudal Age and you hit the Castle Age before them, there's a comeback. To an extent with Imperial Age, it depends on the location of the boom ships, the explosive tech, but that's the kind of ebb and flow of the game. It's why there is a nice balance point and comeback points on the water. I do usually feel like if you reach Castle Age, and you get pushed off water, you just aren't coming back, even with boom ships, because like you need a dock to research it for a start, how you can get on the water, etc. But Yeah, really well played by Hera. I thought this would be a cool one to actually feature. I wasn't sure if it's going to be worth it when I saw how short the game was, but I think this is going to make it on the challenge simply because it's nice to be able to feature something where the Delhi fishing ship spam gets countered, because every time I've seen it so far, it's genuinely broken. I will say that part of this is on DeMusliM not playing it optimally compared to 3DB, for example, who's clearly been like, you know, practicing it and has it down to the dot, right? But I think as the meta continues to expand, we're going to see even like players who are unfamiliar with it, people like DeMusliM who start practicing it, it's going to start to become a more rampant thing in water hybrid maps. It's just going to be interesting to see if other people on the other side, right, on the receiving end, such as, you know, Hera spamming Mongols in this situation, will be able to counter it out, or if it's just going to be the next thing to get nerfed for Delhi. And I can already hear the Delhi fans screaming at the top of their lungs, no, it's the only thing we've got left, please. We'll just have to see.